The NBA announced that the playoff games will resume on Saturday after teams protested following Jacob Blake's shooting. Now, it will come under a new set of conditions as they really actually demand some real change in the fight for racial equality. The NBA and NBPA put out a joint statement Friday writing, "We had a candid, impassioned, and productive conversation yesterday between NBA players, coaches, and team governors regarding next steps to further our collective efforts and actions in support of social justice and racial equality."
And not only, Denny, are the players returning to the court, but they used this time to make an impact for the world around us right now. So the league is also launching a social justice coalition that they say will focus on a broad range of issues, including, quote, increasing access to voting, promoting civic engagement, and advocating for meaningful police and criminal justice reform. And when it comes to voting in particular, this move that they are making is so significant. What the league and the Players Association also announced is an agreement to convert arenas into polling locations for
Mm.
the election in November. Now, that action in particular was a part of the deal struck to get players back on the court on Saturday. And I just, want to applaud the players in that moment for making sure that they were using this opportunity to really provoke change and encourage
Exactly.
voting, and not even just encourage voting. It's one thing to say it, but it's one thing to have an action behind it. And this move to actually convert arenas into polling locations is truly incredible and unprecedented. We've never seen this.
And it really did spark this fire, and not just the NBA, but so many other sports leagues. It really
Mhm.
took a collective response to this most recent shooting of this unarmed black man to really inspire some real change. And of course, as we know, we're about like 60 days away from the election in November. And if it wasn't consequential enough, this November, we also have issues with voter suppression. So the fact that they're like, well, let's take this as an opportunity
Yeah.
to create places where people can come and vote is so major. And all it took was
Mhm.
them to say, we're not going to play. And you know what? That was just enough. And in fact, like we mentioned, it was also sparked some protests from the WNBA. Their games resume
Mhm.
tonight as well. The league tweeted the news, adding, "The fight for justice and equality never stops." And that could not ring more true than today in Washington. Today actually marks 57 years from Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech. And in honor of that, thousands of people gathered at the Lincoln Memorial calling for criminal justice reform and racial equality. That's the scene outside of the Lincoln Memorial today. I mean, the march, which has been dubbed the "Get Your Knee Off Our Necks" March on
Mm.
Washington, began with speeches and ended with a march to the MLK Jr. Memorial in D.C. I get chills because, it's crazy to think that 57 years ago, when Martin Luther King Jr. gave that "I Have a Dream" speech, I think he envisioned a much different future. And sadly, I feel like a lot of change still needs to happen decades later. But
Mhm.
obviously, there is a new generation inspired by those
Yeah.
words. And I think it's important to note that meanwhile, there was no mention of this NBA strike and boycott, or really a direct address on this
Mhm.
fight for racial justice on the final night, or I should say at President Trump's address on the final night of the RNC.
Yeah, during the 70-minute speech, no mention of it whatsoever. Now, President Trump delivered his speech from the White House lawn, where he officially accepted the party's nomination, and also used the opportunity to attack Joe Biden. So, this was the final night of the RNC, and it was once again criticized, especially on social media, for a lack of social distancing. As you can see, the footage right there, that is a large crowd of people, an estimated
Mhm.
1,500 people who gathered on the South Lawn. And if you look closely, few wore masks. Obviously, right now, we are in the middle of a pandemic where we are encouraged to social distance, keep 6 feet apart from other people. We're also encouraged to wear masks. Actually, not even really encouraged. In most places, it's mandatory. You have to wear a mask. Some reporters actually noted on Twitter that they did not have to receive a COVID test either to enter, which is very interesting because,
Hmm.
I will go to like the nail salon and have to sign a waiver. There's so many steps being taken to
I literally had to
take
do that.
take precautions. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so it's just interesting in a place where there's, over 1,000 people that steps wouldn't be taken to minimize the spread of the pandemic
In the nation's capital,
in the
like there's
nation's capital.
children are having to learn from home. People can't wait to get to movie theaters. A lot of people are, because they're at risk of contracting the coronavirus, they're literally locked in their own homes, and yet
Mhm.
there's a party going on outside of the White House. It's really mind-boggling.
There was a party also going on Melania Trump's dress too on social media, Denny, because Melania, she looked absolutely stunning. I'm not gonna lie. She wore this
Yeah.
striking electric green dress, but the internet had a field day with the dress because especially in the TV industry, whenever you see green, everyone's minds immediately go to a green screen.
Yeah.
So for people at home who may not understand how like a green screen works, is the beauty of technology is you can essentially make that dress into anything you want because of the
Yeah.
color that it's green. So people were taking to the internet with like, edited versions of things on her dress, like the death toll from the coronavirus pandemic. I also saw one video going out on social media of the riots that were
Mhm.
happening right after, like in the middle of the Black Lives Matter movement and the protests, showing like this is what's really going on in America.
Meanwhile, what you guys are seeing right there is the Daily Show poke fun at President Trump's ties to convicted sex offender Jeffrey
Mhm.
Epstein by literally putting it on Melania's dress as the couple walked out to the podium. I mean, damn, right? Like you said, the internet really did have a field day with this. The memes on memes on memes. This one, a Twitter user made a meme within a meme, thanks to Kimberly Guilfoyle's impassioned speech from earlier in the week. But also, there was this moment that was caught on camera last night. It was an interaction between Melania and Ivanka Trump. Take a look, you guys. That is a really dramatic reaction from Melania. I couldn't even begin to guess what was going on through her head at this point.
Mhm.
It starts with a warm smile and instantly just flipped
Yeah.
into a cold stare. And everyone is having so much fun with that. I mean, I
You
have
know,
no words
maybe
actually.
maybe she wanted to not have a smile extended for too long because it causes smile lines. Who knows?